Hello and welcome. We're excited that you have joined us for the Aristotle webinar today. My name is Rob Christ. I'm the Executive Vice President of Professional Services. I've been with the company for over 20 years and excited for today and this webinar presentation. During that time frame, we've seen a lot of changes in our industry, but nothing quite like what we've seen this year. One of the big challenges that we're faced with is historically, we've raised a lot of PAC money through peer-to-peer solicitations. And unfortunately, because we can't do that in person, we've developed a way that you can do that through Zoom or through a webinar to be able to communicate your particular issues and communicate with members of your eligible class to be able to increase your contributions and kind of replicate that peer-to-peer solicitation that you've had historically. On the call with me today, I have Taylor Clauston, who's our Senior Account Manager with Aristotle, and she'll be walking us through the presentation. And Laura Bailey, who's our Director of Consulting, who will be assisting me with any questions you may have throughout the presentation. If you could, please make sure that each of you guys are muted your Zooms. I think we may have already done that. Please use the chat box if you have any questions. And as we go through the presentation, we'll answer those as we run through. And then there'll be a time at the end for a question and answer as well. And we will be recording this. So Laura, do we have any questions so far?
No questions so far.
Great. Well, with that, Taylor, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. And thank you everyone for joining us today. During these times, we've had to meet the challenge of finding new solutions to safe and distanced fundraising. The virtual fundraising tool we're showing today has shown great results in engaging participants and particularly contributors, which is the key here, during our virtual fundraising events. We've been able to work with a number of clients on their versions of the virtual fundraiser tool, and we'll give you an example of one of these virtual setups in a bit. We know how important the role of peer-to-peer solicitation events are in meeting annual fundraising goals, and the virtual fundraising tool is a great substitute for the in-person meetings that we can't currently hold right now. We're going to outline some of the great features that come with this tool, then walk you through a live demo of an event so you can see how all the pieces interact and work together. Feel free to send questions into the Zoom chat box at any time throughout this demonstration. First thing to mention, which is very important, is the event page can be password protected to ensure that only members of your eligible class are attending, and that way you're able to control who's accessing the event to make sure nobody stumbles in there accidentally and contributes to the PAC when they shouldn't be. The initial feature on the page that we're showing you is the slideshow banner. This rotating banner allows you to share a welcome message and any key highlights that you want to really catch the eye of your attendees. For example, a list of 2020 contributors, or, let's say your discussion is mostly about legislation that you guys will be facing in this upcoming year. You're able to put in little snippets of that legislation into the rotating banner as well. So really any key message that you want your participants to be able to notice. Right below the rotating banner, we offer an event sign-in feature that will notify your team live when participants enter the event, so you know when to be ready for them. It will also add your attendees to groups so that after the event, you can send them targeted thank yous. This will also allow, after they sign into the event, it will give them a welcome message and any housekeeping notes you want to display for them so they feel comfortable with the page. You can tell them, please go below this message to access your Zoom and log in, and anything else that you think they might need help with. Our team will work with you to integrate your preferred video conferencing or live streaming tool directly into the site. This allows for your participants to have a streamlined experience being able to participate in the conference without having to leave the virtual fundraising page. You can use these events as an opportunity to discuss PAC goals, important legislation that's impacting the mission of the organization, and any other big topics that you want to discuss. Laura, have we had any questions so far about any of these pieces?
Yes, we've actually received a couple questions. The first question is there a limit to the number of slides for the slideshow portion at the top?
No, so for the slideshow portion of the top, we can put as many different slides in there as you want, but as best practices, we do suggest keeping it limited because if there's just too many slides up there, then some of the messages might get missed by your participants. Any other questions?
Yes, and we did receive another question. Can you sell virtual tickets to the event when people sign up?
That's a great question. So a way to sell virtual tickets might be through one of our web forums that we're able to host through Aristotle 360. That way you're able to track who will be attending and make sure that the correct individuals are coming into the site.
Great. Those were the two questions we've received so far.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah, this is Rob. Actually, one of the things you can do if you end up hosting an event, you can actually even embed, some type of performer or something, or if you do some sort of happy hour where you send some drinks to their house or some, maybe it's a charcuterie platter, but there's a way that you can do that where you're sending it out, you're charging them for the event, and then it's almost like a happy hour that's moving on.
Awesome. And Laura, was that the last of the questions or did any others come in?
That was, yes.
Awesome. And just one more note here. We do recommend using Zoom for this feature. Zoom integrates the most easily directly into the page. When your participants get there, it's, the Zoom screen share itself or the Zoom conference iframe. So that one is incredibly seamless and we found it works very well. Now, the big piece of this tool is our live fundraising metrics. These are metrics that your attendees can see update live every time you have a new event contributor. And these metrics consist of a thermometer, a most recent contributors list, and an all contributors ticker. The thermometer allows your team to set a fundraising goal for the event, and your attendees can watch the thermometer rise with every contributor until you surpass your event goal, hopefully live in the event, which is always fun. On the right-hand side of these metrics, you have the most recent contributors metrics. This drives more active participation as your contributors see themselves listed in the 5 most recent contributors list. You can also use this tool to pause your presentations and give a shout out to your recent contributors, which makes them feel really good. You can adjust whether the total contribution of the individual is hidden or displayed. In these particular instances, we're displaying the contribution amounts, though some clients are uncomfortable with showing how much people are contributing. But we definitely feel like in our experience, we've seen that it does create a bit more of a competitive nature, so will help you reach your fundraising goals a bit faster. And the final piece of these metrics, because no event should ever miss recognizing a contributor, is our all contributor section. The all contributor section at the bottom offers a running ticker of all contributors from your event, giving them the recognition that they deserve. Laura, do we have any more questions come in?
We do. We have a couple more questions that we've received. The first is, does an Aristotle team member need to be present if the client hosts an event like this through the site?
An Aristotle team member does not need to be present. All of these features do function on their own, but in past experiences, an Aristotle team member has been present just to help with any issues that may come up and just make the process a little bit easier.
Great. Then we also go ahead.
And typically, when an Aristotle team member participates, there's no speaking role. They're just there to make sure that things run smoothly.
That's right. Yeah.
A couple other questions that have come in. Does Aristotle retain the data and footage of events hosted on the site?
We do not. We can retain the footage, and the data is your data. So if it's something if you're an Aristotle client, then obviously the data will be put directly into the database and reported on. If you're a new Aristotle client and you're looking to utilize a system, we can send you the data and then not have access to it after that. So it would be your data, it's not ours.
And then the last question that looks like that's come in is the thermometer updated automatically, or does the event organizer need to put in some data to make that go up?
Nope, that is updated live. So every time somebody contributes, you'll see that ticker go right up. So it's updates every second or so. So it'll immediately update reaching your goal during the live event.
Great, that appears to be all of our questions so far.
Awesome. All right, so now I'm going to give you a little bit of a walkthrough of what a live event looks like so you can see how all these pieces fit together on a single page. Right, so as you can see, you can have this behind a login for compliance purposes in order to make sure that nobody who shouldn't be attending the event isn't. So when your eligible user logs into the site and gets to the page, the first thing that they'll be seeing at the very top is a contribute button, which we can put in a bunch of different places, but we really want to make sure that your attendees' eyes are drawn to the contribute button, because even if they've contributed previously, if they've not yet met their contribution limit for the year, you want to make sure that you can have them see that button so they feel comfortable contributing again. So the next piece down that you're able to see is the rotating banner. So this banner will typically consist of a welcome message. You can put in some, key fundraising metrics that you really want everyone to see that's happened for the past year or so. You can include a leadership team. You can include any sponsors. Maybe your event has a sponsor that you want to thank, and you can also include a thank you message. Other big things that you should really include on here are, pieces of key legislation, maybe even legislator report cards if there's specific legislators who've been, really helpful to your cause or maybe less helpful. You can also have legislator report cards found up here as well. Going further down the event, you're able to see the sign into the event tool, and this will obviously prompt your user to sign in, and when they do, it will notify your team that they're here in the event, so you know as soon as somebody's reached the page. And then once they do submit, enter, they see some housekeeping notes and a thank you message and any instructions that you want to provide that will make them feel more comfortable in the environment. For example, we tell them to please log into the Zoom below, contribute, to have your name appear on the contributors list, write in the Zoom chat to ask any questions, just to kind of give them some guidance so they know where to go next. Going further down the screen is where we'll insert your preferred conferencing platform. So for example, Zoom, which works very seamlessly. We don't have Zoom plugged in here right now because since we're using Zoom, Zoom doesn't like to Zoom, so it won't let us have it in here right now, but it does work perfectly. And we have that in the center of the page because it really just brings the user to that experience. So it really is an interactive experience like a live event would be. Going further down, you're able to see these live metrics, which, as we previously mentioned, do update live. So anytime you have a contributor contribute, you'll be able to see their name pop right to the top of the list of the most recent contributor section. You'll be able to see this ticker rise to meet your goal, and you'll be able to see their name added to your all contributors section. An important thing to note about the all contributors section is it doesn't have to necessarily just be restricted to your contributors who have participated only in this event. But if you really want to give a shout out and thank you to all your contributors for the whole year, you could do this here as well and list all of your contributors. And again, as we've previously mentioned, the dollar amounts that are reflected on here are not a requirement, of course. If that's not something that you guys are comfortable having displayed, that can always be removed from the platform as well. And then to make sure that we're always up to date with compliance, we'll of course have the required compliance language in the tool as well, right on the page, so that contributors know that their contributions are not forced and they're able to contribute as much as they feel comfortable with. Awesome. Did we have any questions about the virtual fundraiser page?
Yes, we do have a few questions that have come in. The first is, can folks set up a single sign-on link to log on, and as some people don't always know their passwords?
Absolutely, great question. We can definitely set up a single sign-on. So for those of you guys who are on the call who are familiar with our websites, just like any of the website pages, we are able to put this page behind single sign-on. So those who don't want their attendees to have to remember their password, some are just very familiar with the single sign-on process, we can absolutely put it behind single sign-on.
Okay, great. And then another question is there a limit to how many people may attend?
No, there's no limit to how many people may attend the page. The only limitations would be with the conferencing tool that you've selected. So there's different packages, obviously, with programs like Zoom and GoToMeeting. So it really would just depend on which package you guys have that would set that limitation.
Great. And any security concerns with Zoom was another question.
There's no security there. So some of you may be aware that historically there are some issues with Zoom. I'd say probably 3-4 months ago when the pandemic, or maybe even longer than that, 5 months ago when the pandemic started. But Zoom has really beefed up their security in the last 3 months and spent a lot of time making sure that these events are kept confidential and meet a high level of scrutiny within the security community. So we have no issues utilizing Zoom currently.
Okay, great. And then a couple more questions. Can Aristotle generate the legislator report cards?
Yes, that's something we can generate. We have all the data and can go ahead and do that. So it's not an issue.
And then last question, are there any other options that clients can choose from for this page, or is what you showed kind of what's available?
Question. That leads us into our next piece here is we are able to provide a customized experience for you and your team and your attendees. We really want to offer you a customized experience that best engages your event attendees. We'll work with your team to determine which features may be of most interest to your participants because we really want to get them engaged. So to cover some of those additional tools that we offer, we're able to provide a top contributors section, which, since you guys aren't attending conferences live anymore and you're losing some of the ability to recognize your PAC members, for example, in the past, organizations gave out pins to certain individuals at higher levels. In lieu of that, we could create a top contributors section as a place to recognize your top contributors right there on the page and give them a shout out and a thank you. And you can calculate, whatever your preference is, the whole year or whatever time frame you need. And it's just the chance to give them the recognition your contributors may be missing. We can also reflect on the page a disbursement map, meaning a map that displays different contributions to different different legislators by state. So your users could click on each state and see where contributions have gone to in that state. This is a perfect time for your government affairs staffer to communicate effectively. This is the legislation we're working on. We're seeing, that's why you're seeing a concentration of contributions going to a certain state. It's a way to explain why the PAC is spending more money in certain states and to be able to kind of walk through that with your participants so they have a better understanding. And it'll also be a segue into, bringing up what legislation is important and what legislation you're trying to get in front of legislators. And again, just a way to vocalize the importance of the PAC.
If I could jump in real quick, I think one thing that I noticed that there's a number of Realtor organizations on the call, and within the Realtor community and a lot of other corporations and associations we work with, the pins is a great way to recognize their contributors. And we found that the top contributors, or I would even do, different bands as far as what the top level is a great way, or even if you want to break it down into different levels to show the contributors who are in the top level, in the second and third tiers. This is a great place to recognize those particular individuals because you're not having those conferences where you're walking around wearing the pins and other people are seeing that. So this is a great substitute for that interaction.
Awesome. Some other tools that we're able to provide are a photo gallery, perhaps, back before COVID happened, when everybody was meeting together, you had some fun events in January and February that you wanted to show on the page. We could get that set up in a photo gallery to be available there for people to see. We can also offer a register to vote section, which is a great chance for individuals who haven't yet registered. Hopefully most people had, but those who maybe slipped their mind or they recently moved, those who need to register to vote, it gives them an opportunity to do that and just kind of bring a fun, festive political atmosphere into the event. And another tool we're able to provide is a party disbursement chart. And again, this goes back to the importance of the PAC and wanting to be able to discuss where your money's going and why it's going to certain places with your participants. So we can display a live disbursement chart that will show your participants exactly where that money is going. And we can also offer a find your legislator tool for participants who want to get engaged in the conversation, but maybe can't remember who their legislator is or they recently moved. Right here in the event, they can look up who their legislator is and get more engaged in the conversation. Other pieces of tool that we couldn't get on this page, depending on your preferences and your participants and the topic of the hour, are summary of legislation, maybe key pieces of legislation that you want your participants to be paying attention to. And again, as we previously mentioned, the legislator report card. So that your participants know which legislators have been supporters, or maybe they need to reach out to more to help them support some important legislation impacting your organization. Laura, do we have any other questions that have come in?
Yes, a couple questions. Is the needed geocoding information automatically added to the Aristotle database for some of these functions?
Yeah, it's automatically. We zip the district everything and have the district lines built into everything that we do within 360. And that'll be the same thing within this site.
Okay, great. And then the last question that looks like has come in is, if somebody wants to get started, what would be the next step?
Thanks for that question. That's a good segue to our last slide. And if you're a current Aristotle customer, you can reach out to your account managers and they can help get you a proposal and get you set up. If you're new to Aristotle, please feel free to email me or call me. You can see my email and phone number here. And this presentation will be put up on the Aristotle website, and we'll be sending you a link as well. So if you need to reach out, please feel free to do so. And I'll have a member of my sales team get in touch with you to help get you a proposal and get you set up. With that, I appreciate the time that everybody has put into this. Are there any other questions that we have?
I don't see any more in the chat box, so I think we're
great.
up.
Well, we appreciate your time. Next week we'll be doing is our second of 4 webinars in the month of August. We'll be discussing the Arena product, which is an excellent way to communicate with legislators and keep track of your conversations, and also be able to get asset reporting before you walk into a legislator, along with PAC information, bills and votes. There's a number of different items that it has, and it's all on your cell phone, so it's extremely helpful. It's an app that you can download and gain information. But I appreciate it. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Laura, and thank you for participating. Have a great weekend or great week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.